My sermon this morning is entitled, Welcome Back, Now Get Out of Here. So take out, if you would, this little reading from the Gospel of John. This happened, John writes, on the evening of the first day of the week. That means Easter Sunday, the original Easter Sunday, at the end of the day. The disciples were gathered together in the house, and the door was locked. Because though they had heard the news about the risen Christ from the women who had gone to the tomb, they were still afraid. Maybe they were afraid that the Jews would come and accuse them of stealing the body and try and get them. Maybe they were afraid it wasn't true. But then suddenly, the locked doors notwithstanding, Jesus came and stood among them. And then he spoke. And the gist of what he said, taken all together, at least in terms of the end result for the disciples, is get out of here. And when the disciples did so, they changed the world. From those locked doors in the house in Jerusalem would burst forth the greatest religious and cultural transformation the world had or has ever seen. And all this started when, late on Easter Day, the risen Lord spoke to his gathered disciples. This morning, we are his gathered disciples. I pray the Lord will speak to us. There are four things the disciples hear from Jesus. Peace be with you. I send you. Receive the Holy Spirit, and if you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. So the first thing, peace be with you. He says this right after he suddenly appeared in the middle of them. This appearance must have been very surprising. This one time, I was about 8, my grandfather snuck up and appeared in the presence of my grandmother at the National Aquarium. And she turned around and karate chopped him so hard it broke his glasses clean in half. I do not, in that particular moment, remember him saying, peace be with you. All I'm saying is the reason Jesus is lucky, he did not get himself karate chopped by Peter or something. But anyway, had Jesus only said, peace be with you once, we might just chalk it up to his trying to calm down some very surprised disciples. But after he showed them his hands and his side, the marks of his crucifixion and the soldier's spear, Jesus said it again. Peace be with you. This was more than don't be alarmed. This was Jesus conveying to the disciples his peace. As he said at the meal before his arrest, peace I leave with you, my own peace I give you. There's something important about this narrative that I want you to see. So that the peace of Christ comes into our hearts the same way Jesus came into that room. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. The world only knows how to give peace by taking care of the things that are outside and causing the lack of peace. This is most clear in a military sense, right? Peace is when the fighting ceases. But this is true even in terms of personal peace. Think about the advice we give each other to find peace. End broken relationships. Disconnect from your cell phone. Address physical pain. Other religions even treat peace this way. The Buddhist notion of inner peace or nirvana involves letting go of all the distractions and cares and stresses that are outside of us. I find that most of the time when I cannot feel God's peace, I discover I've started measuring my peace in terms of what's going on around me. The peace of Christ is different. It's peace from the inside out. Like our risen Lord suddenly appearing in the inside of a locked house. The peace of Christ comes suddenly to the inside of a locked heart. It's a peace in the midst of all that is going on in the world and in our lives. This peace is not an absence of discord, the fullness of Christ. The miracle of Jesus appearing in that room, Jesus will do it again and again in the lives of his disciples. Most of us, I think most of us, I don't think I'm alone here, would be happy enough if God left it at that. If the gift of the risen Lord in this life was just a deep an abiding sense of his peace and love, no matter how much excrement is hitting the fan and flying around all over the place. I think I love that. Yes, go ahead and make my inner man a Superman, God. Thank you. But God's peace has a purpose. The gift of Christ's peace is equipment for our mission. And that's where Jesus went immediately. Peace be with you. And then, just a breath. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. He, me, I, you. This move to send the disciples, it happened so fast on Easter that it's hard to get the sense that's not the point. Jesus had shown the way, now it was the disciples' turn to follow. This being sent, it starts with that peace, an explosion of peace within the disciples' heart, the very core of their being. Peace be with you. And it has to start there, because the Jews and the Romans are still on the other side of those doors. Jesus did not take care of them on the way over. They're still there, and they're still angry. But now the disciples had peace on the inside, and it's with that peace that they went. In the Gospel of John, and we here are reading just a little portion of the very last chapter of the Gospel. But in the Gospel as a whole, Jesus speaks often of his being sent by the Father. He said in his final prayer for the disciples, he said, "They know in truth that I came from you, and they believe that you sent me." Those disciples who believed that Jesus was sent, they saw that the work Jesus was sent to do was not easy. But they also saw that Jesus had power that he exercised as he was sent. And that's the thing Jesus addressed next. He received the Holy Spirit, he says, and he breathed on them. Now, whole sermons, really much longer ones, can be preached on this. And you get one of those sermons when we mark the celebration of the gift of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. That's that day, remember, when the Holy Spirit descended upon the disciples in the form of tongues of fire, and they were enabled to speak and preach in different languages. But partly because of this Pentecost story in the book of Acts, we tend to think of the gift of the Holy Spirit when we bother to think of the gift of the Holy Spirit at all. We tend to think of it often in terms of preaching, or in speaking in tongues, or maybe gifts of healing. Now, Jesus' disciples were and are called to go out into the world and proclaim the good news with powerful deeds and powerful words, which sounds great for them and probably slightly terrifying for us. And yet preaching is not what Jesus tells them to do next here in the Gospel of John. Look at it there. Receive the Holy Spirit. It's right at the end of verse 22. Then in verse 23, he says this: "If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained." So go out and reconcile the world, he says. Every Christian has a responsibility to declare God's forgiveness. And Jesus added the retaining sin piece, I think, not because he trusts our judgment on who should get forgiven, but because he wants to remind us we must not treat sin like it doesn't matter. But what if we just actually took Jesus at his word here? What if we understood ourselves to be a people whose mission, whose purpose was to go out and forgive people? And I don't mean just forgive those who have slighted us in some way. What if we use the power of the Holy Spirit to offer forgiveness in God's name? To reconcile people to God and to one another? I love this image, particularly as I think about what God is calling St. Andrew's Westridge to be. Look, I have to level with you. Neither our church as a whole, nor this campus in particular, is going to grow as long as we consider our calling to be to gather here with the doors closed. If we're going to gather with the doors closed, it better be because we're going to receive Christ's peace and be sent back into the world in the power of the Spirit. And you're sent out there not to hold a sign that says, "Jesus is the only way to heaven," outside the dollar store. Right? Or to flood your Facebook feed with Bible quotes. Although seriously, the number of times you'll quote some e-cards in George Takei, the St. Paul reference every once in a while, probably wouldn't be the end of the world. But you're really sent out there to reconcile the world. to show in your words, in your deeds, in the way you treat others, that God forgives them. Be ready to forgive the sins of any. This won't mean going around and solemnly pronouncing God's forgiveness all over the place. I'm not really suggesting that you pull up at a red light next to that jerk. It's a theological term, by the way. Next to that jerk in the jacked up Ford Super Duty who cuts you off half a mile back and roll down the window and say, "In the name of Jesus Christ, you are forgiven." Right? That's not going to work. Reconciling and forgiving may mean putting up with the moody preteen or teenager who lives at your house like a total stranger. Or if you are a teenager, it might mean just being kind and helpful to your ridiculous parental units. It might not mean saying anything about God at all, at least in the beginning, but merely showing a coworker or a neighbor that you think they are worth listening to and spending time with because you know that God thinks they're worth loving. It might involve forgiving your ex or a depressed family member that keeps sucking the life out of family gatherings. It might be just not freaking out when things go wrong or when someone does something dumb. There's this great XKCD comic. It's an internet comic strip. And this one is just a single box. And like the old Far Side cartoons. Remember this? It's just like that. And there's a person sitting at the computer typing. It's the only image. And from the other room, a voice is calling, "Are you coming to bed?" And the person at the computer says, "I can't. This is important." And the voice says, "What?" And the person at the computer says, "Someone is wrong on the internet." It could just be that we could help reconcile the world by avoiding blasting whoever is wrong on the internet. Or even wrong in real life. Like, we live in a culturally fractured community right now. Our nerves are as frayed as our discourse. We can do something about it, provided we operate out of Christ's peace and in the Spirit's power. Reconciling the world will at some point mean inviting someone to church. Not so our attendance goes up, but because you realize that they need more than you in their life. They need your Lord. You need to come to this place where his disciples are gathered, yes, with doors closed, and be sent back outside with the peace of Christ in their hearts. One of the most beautiful prayers in the Christian tradition is attributed to St. Francis. He puts it like this: "Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy." Doing this will take words. Being sent in peace with power, we will be called to speak with others about our risen Lord. But these words we speak will not be slogans we shout above the din of everyday life. It will not be preaching at people, but living with people. You will have opportunities this very week to speak of God, of the forgiveness of Christ, and what it is to have his peace in your heart. That's the gift of the risen Lord. So this second week of Easter, let the words of Jesus that first Easter be words to you as well. Peace be with you. Receive the Holy Spirit. I send you. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. Now go on and get out here after me.